AITA for getting my stepbrother banned from my building after he used my address without permission? Posted to r/am asshole. I, 30F, never thought I'd be posting here, but my family is making me feel like I've committed some unforgivable sin, and I genuinely need outside perspective. This situation has spiraled so far beyond what I ever imagined that I'm questioning my own judgment. Some background. I'm a dental hygienist and have been working at the same practice for 6 years. I'm good at my job, I've built a solid reputation, and most importantly, I've been financially responsible. While my friends were taking vacations and buying new cars, I was putting money into savings. Every single paycheck. 4 years. 8 months ago, that discipline finally paid off. I closed on a 1-bedroom condo in a nice building downtown. It's not huge, about 750 square feet, but it's mine. I have a doorman, a small gym in the basement, and for the first time in my adult life, I don't share walls with someone who plays EDM at 2 a.m. The mortgage is manageable, the HOA fees are reasonable, and I genuinely wake up happy every morning knowing I own this space. Now, let me tell you about my stepbrother, Derek, 27M. My dad married his mom when I was 16 and Derek was 13. We were never close. Not hostile, just indifferent. He was the kid who always had an excuse for everything. Failed a test. Teacher had it out for him. Lost a job. Manager was jealous. Crashed his car. The other driver came out of nowhere. Spoiler, he ran a red light. You get the picture. Derek has bounced between jobs for the past several years. He's worked retail, food service, warehouse positions. Nothing wrong with any of those jobs, but he never lasts more than a few months before something happens and he's looking again. He still lives with our parents in the suburbs, about 40 minutes from my place. Here's where things went wrong. About 3 months ago, I started getting mail for Derek at my address. At first, it was just one envelope, looked like junk mail, honestly. I texted him, "Hey, got some mail for you here. Weird. Want me to forward it?" He replied, "Oh yeah, just hold on to it. I'll grab it sometime." I didn't think much of it. Maybe he'd signed up for something and accidentally used my address. It happens. But then more mail came. And more. I started seeing envelopes from staffing agencies, correspondence that looked like job-related documents, even something from the state unemployment office. Within 2 weeks, I had a small stack of his mail on my counter. I texted him again, "Derek, you have a lot of mail here. What's going on?" His response, "Job hunting. Can I swing by Saturday to pick it up?" I said sure, thinking that would be the end of it. I'd hand him the mail, maybe ask him to update his address, and move on with my life. Saturday came. Derek showed up around 11 a.m. I handed him the stack of mail, and instead of leaving, he walked past me into my living room, dropped onto my couch, and turned on my TV. "Nice place," he said, scrolling through my Netflix. "Mind if I hang for a bit? Traffic was brutal getting here." I was caught off guard. Sure. For a little while, I guess. A little while turned into 4 hours. He ate an entire bag of chips I just bought, drank 3 of my beers, and complained about how hard the job market was while I sat there wondering how to politely kick him out. Finally, around 3 p.m., I told him I had plans and he needed to leave. He seemed annoyed but left. I thought that was weird but chalked it up to Derek being Derek. Then it happened again the following week. More mail arrived. He texted asking when he could stop by. This time he stayed 5 hours, ordered food delivery to my address, and didn't offer to share or pay me back for using my place as the delivery point, and asked if he could crash for a bit because he was tired. I said no to the crashing and told him he really needed to update his address because I wasn't comfortable with this arrangement. He got defensive. "It's just mail. Why are you being weird about it?" "Because it's my address," I said. "And I don't want you using it." He rolled his eyes, muttered something about me being uptight, and left. But the mail kept coming. And Derek kept showing up. What started as a Saturday thing became a twice-a-week thing. Then 3 times. He'd text me saying he was in the area and needed to grab his mail. But he was never just grabbing mail. He'd let himself be buzzed up by the doorman, who, by this point, recognized him, walk in like he owned the place, raid my fridge, watch my TV, and sometimes just sit there. On his phone. 4 hours. I started dreading coming home from work because I never knew if Derek would be waiting in the lobby, ready to follow me up. 2 weeks ago, I finally hit my limit. I came home from a long shift, I'd had 3 root canal assists and my feet were killing me, to find Derek already in my apartment. He'd convinced the doorman, Miguel, that he was my brother and that I'd told him to wait inside. Miguel, being friendly and not wanting to cause problems, had let the building super open my door for him. I walked into my own home to find Derek on my couch, eating my leftover Thai food, watching some show at full volume. I lost it. Derek, what the hell? How did you get in here? He didn't even look away from the TV. Relax, told the doorman I was family. Which I am. You can't just let yourself into my apartment. Now he looked at me, and his expression was irritated, like I was the one being unreasonable. I needed to get my mail. You weren't here. What was I supposed to do, wait in the lobby like some homeless person? Yes. Or, here's a thought, you could change your address to your actual address. He sat up, and his tone shifted to something harder. Look, I need this address, okay? My parents' place is in the suburbs. Nobody wants to hire someone who lives 40 minutes away. Your address is downtown. It looks better on applications. I stared at him. You've been using my address on job applications? It's not a big deal. It's fraud, Derek. He stood up then, and I'll admit, for a moment I felt a flicker of something uncomfortable. Derek is over 6 feet tall and solidly built. I'm 5'4" and was exhausted. He didn't do anything threatening, but the way he stepped toward me made me take a step back. You're being dramatic, he said, his voice low. I'm trying to get a job. You have this nice place all to yourself, and you can't even help family? What's wrong with you? You need to leave. No. Fine. He grabbed his mail off my counter. There was another stack I hadn't even noticed, and headed for the door. But he stopped and turned back. You know, Dad's going to hear about this. About how you're treating me. He left. I locked the door behind him and stood there shaking. Sure enough, the next day my dad called. And of course, Derek had given him a heavily edited version of events. Why are you being so hard on your brother? Dad asked. Stepbrother. And he's been using my address without permission, letting himself into my apartment, eating my food. It's just mail, Dad interrupted. He's trying to get back on his feet. Would it kill you to help him out? He literally broke into my apartment, Dad. Don't be dramatic. He's family. He didn't break in. He asked the doorman to let him in. That's different. I tried to explain, but Dad wasn't hearing it. In his mind, I was being selfish and unwilling to help Derek during a hard time. The conversation ended with him telling me to think about what kind of sister I wanted to be. Sister, not stepsister. Funny how that distinction only matters when it benefits Derek. Update 1. 1 week later. Things escalated in a way I didn't anticipate. After the confrontation with Derek and the phone call with Dad, I decided to document everything. I started a log of every time Derek showed up, every piece of mail that arrived, every text message. I also spoke with Miguel, the doorman, and apologized for putting him in an awkward position. I explained that Derek was not to be let into my apartment under any circumstances and that if he showed up, I should be called first. Miguel felt terrible. He's a sweet older man who's worked the building for 15 years, and he genuinely thought he was doing me a favor by helping out my brother. I assured him it wasn't his fault and that Derek had manipulated the situation. I also spoke with the building manager and explained the situation. She was understanding and made a note in the system that Derek was not an authorized visitor to my unit. 3 days after that, Derek showed up again. This time, Miguel called me before buzzing him up. Ms. Chen, your stepbrother is here. He says he has mail to pick up. Tell him I'll bring it down. I gathered the mail that had arrived, still more, despite me asking him repeatedly to change his address, and went downstairs. Derek was in the lobby, looking annoyed. Why do I have to wait down here now? He demanded. Because you don't live here, Derek. This is my home, not a mail drop. You're seriously still on this? Yes. I'm seriously still on this. You need to change your address. I mean it. He snatched the mail from my hand. You're going to regret being like this. Is that a threat? He didn't answer. Just turned and walked out. But here's where things got really interesting. The next morning, I got a call from a staffing agency. They were doing a background check on Derek for a warehouse position, and they needed to verify his address. He listed this address as his residence, the woman said. We need to confirm he's lived there for the past 6 months. My stomach dropped. He doesn't live here. I live here. Alone. Derek is my stepbrother, and he's never lived at this address. There was a pause. I see. Thank you for clarifying. I hung up and immediately called Derek. He didn't answer. I texted him, did you tell employers you live at my address? His response, 20 minutes later, "It's just for the background check. Stop making everything a big deal." I was furious. This wasn't just about mail anymore. He was actively committing fraud, using my address to misrepresent his residence on official employment documents. This could affect me. What if a background check company started flagging my address? What if this somehow messed with my own employment verification? My condo association? My credit? I called Dad again, hoping this new information would make him understand the severity. It did not. "He's just trying to get a job," Dad said. "Nobody's going to care about an address." "Dad, background check companies care about addresses. This is fraud. You're overreacting. Just let him use the address until he gets hired somewhere, then he'll change it." "No." There was a long pause. "You know, your grandmother would be ashamed of how you're treating family." I hung up on him. I'm not proud of it, but I did. Update 2, 3 days later. I received 2 more background check calls. Both times, I told them Derek did not live at my address and never had. One of the callers, a man who identified himself as being from a logistics company, thanked me for my honesty and mentioned that providing false information on an application was grounds for immediate disqualification. Derek, apparently, did not get either of those jobs. He also didn't take it well. He showed up at my building unannounced on a Tuesday evening. I wasn't home yet, still at work, but Miguel called me. "He's here again. He seems upset. He's asking for his mail and saying he needs to talk to you. Don't let him up. I'll be there in 30 minutes. When I arrived, Derek was pacing in the lobby. The moment he saw me, he stormed over. "You sabotaged me." His voice was loud enough that several other residents turned to look. "Lower your voice." "No. You told those background check people I don't live here. That's why I didn't get those jobs. You don't live here, Derek." I told them the truth. "You could have just said yes. It wouldn't have cost you anything. It would have cost me my integrity. And potentially my own background check clearances. I'm not lying for you." He stepped closer, and I saw Miguel move toward the front desk phone. Derek's face was red, his hands clenched at his sides. "You think you're so much better than me, don't you? Little Miss Perfect with her fancy condo and her stable job. Must be nice. You need to leave." "I'll leave when I want to leave." Miguel spoke up. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to go. You're disturbing other residents." Derek spun toward him. "Stay out of this, old man." That was enough. I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Derek, I'm asking you one more time to leave. If you don't, I'm calling the police." He stared at me, then at my phone. Something shifted in his expression. Maybe the realization that he was being recorded, maybe just frustration, and he let out a harsh laugh. "Fine. Keep your precious address. But don't come crying to Dad when you realize you have no family left." He left. But as he walked out, he shoved a decorative plant stand near the entrance, knocking it over. The ceramic pot shattered on the floor. The whole thing was on the lobby security cameras. Update 3, 1 week later. The building management did not take kindly to Derek's behavior. The shattered plant pot was technically property damage, and combined with his aggressive behavior toward a resident and staff member, they took formal action. I received an email from the property manager stating that Derek had been officially banned from the building. His photo was distributed to all security and door staff, and he was added to a list of individuals not permitted on the premises. If he attempted to enter, he would be asked to leave, and if he refused, the police would be called. I forwarded this information to Dad, hoping, naively, I realize now, that seeing official consequences might make him understand that this wasn't about me being petty. His response was a voicemail that I've saved because I still can't quite believe it. "You got your brother banned from a building? What is wrong with you? He's struggling, and instead of helping, you're making his life harder. Your stepmother is in tears. I hope you're happy with yourself." I didn't respond. What I did do was consult with a lawyer friend about the address situation. She confirmed what I suspected: Derek using my address on employment applications, particularly when it involved background checks and official documentation, could be considered fraudulent misrepresentation. She advised me to send a formal cease and desist letter. So I did. The letter, sent via certified mail to my parents' address, Derek's actual residence, stated clearly that Derek did not have permission to use my address for any purpose, that I had documented his unauthorized use, and that any continued use would result in further legal action. Derek, predictably, did not take this well either. He sent me a string of text messages that ranged from pleading to angry to threatening. Highlights include: "You're ruining my life over mail. Dad was right. you've always been cold. I know where you live. Remember that. That last one I screenshotted and forwarded to my lawyer friend, who advised me to save everything and consider filing for a restraining order if the threats continued. My stepmother called me crying, asking how I could do this to Derek. She said he was devastated and couldn't understand why I hated him so much. I tried to explain, calmly, that I didn't hate him, I just wanted him to stop using my address and respect my boundaries. But he needs help, she sobbed. He's been so depressed. I understand he's struggling, I said, trying to keep my voice level. But his struggles don't give him the right to violate my boundaries, enter my home without permission, or commit fraud using my address. I'm not the bad guy here. She hung up on me. Update 4, 2 weeks later. I wasn't sure if I'd have more to share, but things have continued to develop, and enough people asked for updates that I figured I'd provide one. First, the good news. The mail has finally stopped coming. After the cease and desist letter, Derek apparently updated his address on whatever applications and subscriptions he'd used mine for. It took about a week for the flow to slow to a trickle, and for the past 4 days, I haven't received a single piece of his mail. My mailbox is finally, blissfully, just mine. Second, and this is more significant, Derek violated the building ban. Last Saturday, I was leaving for a morning yoga class when I stepped out of the elevator and saw him in the lobby. He was arguing with Miguel, who was firmly telling him he wasn't allowed in the building. I just need to talk to her for 5 minutes, Derek was saying. She's my sister. You can't keep me from my own sister. Sir, you're on the no-entry list. I've explained this. I need you to leave. This is insane. She's the one who... He spotted me then, and his whole demeanor shifted. There you are. Look, can we talk? Just 5 minutes. I want to apologize. I stayed where I was, near the elevator, and kept my voice calm. Derek, you're not allowed to be here. I know, but I just need to explain. No. You need to leave. For God's sake, I'm trying to make things right. Miguel had already picked up the phone. Sir, I'm calling the police now. Derek's expression went from pleading to furious in about half a second. He pointed at me. This is all your fault. You know that, right? Everything that's happened to me is because you couldn't just help me out. Your choices are your fault, Derek. Not mine. He started toward me, and I won't lie, my heart was pounding. But Miguel stepped out from behind the desk, phone still in hand, and 2 other residents who'd been getting their mail turned to watch. Derek stopped. Fine, he spat. Fine. But this isn't over. He turned and walked out, but not before kicking over a lobby chair. More property damage. More footage on the security cameras. The police did come, though Derek was gone by then. I filed a report, adding it to the documentation I'd been keeping. The officer who took my statement said that given the pattern of behavior, the threats, the property damage, the violations of the building ban, I had grounds for a restraining order. I'm in the process of filing one. Final update. It's been 3 weeks since I filed for the restraining order, and it was granted. Derek is now legally required to stay at least 500 feet from me and my residence. He cannot contact me directly or through third parties. My dad has stopped speaking to me entirely. His last message was a text that read, "When you're ready to apologize to this family, let me know. Until then, don't bother calling." I haven't responded. I'm not sure I will. My stepmother still occasionally sends me guilt-laden messages about how Derek is struggling and how families should stick together. I've started just not opening them. It's easier that way. Here's the thing that I keep coming back to. I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't create this conflict. All I did was buy a condo, work my job, and ask my stepbrother to respect a simple boundary. Don't use my address without permission. That's it. That's the entirety of what I asked for. And for that, I've been called selfish, cold, dramatic, and told that my grandmother would be ashamed of me. I've been screamed at in my own lobby, had my home invaded, been threatened, and had to file a restraining order against someone I grew up with. Derek made every single choice that led to this outcome. He chose to use my address without asking. He chose to keep doing it when I asked him to stop. He chose to lie to employers. He chose to let himself into my apartment. He chose to get aggressive. He chose to violate the building ban. He chose to threaten me. But somehow, in my family's narrative, I'm the villain. I've done a lot of thinking over these past few months about family and obligation and what we owe to the people we're related to. And here's what I've concluded. Being family doesn't mean being a doormat. Love doesn't mean letting someone walk all over you. Support doesn't mean enabling bad behavior. I tried to help Derek, in my own way. I held his mail. I let him visit, even when it was inconvenient. I gave him chance after chance to just do the right thing. And instead, he escalated at every opportunity. So no, I don't feel guilty. I feel sad, sometimes, about the relationship with my dad that's been destroyed. But I don't feel guilty. Some of my friends think I should reach out to Dad and try to repair things. Others think I'm better off without family members who would put Derek's entitlement above my safety. I'm honestly not sure which camp is right. But here's what I know. I come home to my condo now, and it's peaceful. My mail is my own. My fridge is stocked with food that I get to eat. My couch doesn't have a freeloader on it when I walk in the door. And when I lock my door at night, I know that the people in my building will actually keep me safe. That's worth something. That's worth a lot, actually. So, Reddit, was I the asshole for setting boundaries, documenting violations, and ultimately getting my stepbrother banned from my building and obtaining a restraining order? I know what I think. But I'm genuinely curious what you all have to say. Edit. Thank you for all the responses. I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did. For those asking, yes, I have all the documentation saved in multiple places, including cloud backups. Yes, I've changed my locks and added an additional deadbolt. Oh, I don't know if Derek ever found employment. That's not my concern anymore. For those saying I should have just let him use the address, I hope you never have to learn the hard way why enabling someone's bad behavior doesn't actually help them. Take care of yourselves, everyone. And remember, no is a complete sentence. NTA, I hope. One more thing. A few people have asked what finally made me realize I needed to take serious action, and I think it's worth sharing because it might help someone else in a similar situation. It wasn't the first time Derek showed up uninvited. It wasn't even when I found him in my apartment eating my food. It was the moment in my lobby when he stepped toward me and I felt afraid of him. Physically afraid. In my own building. In the place I worked so hard to afford, the place that was supposed to be my sanctuary. That feeling, that cold twist in my stomach when someone who's supposed to be family makes you feel unsafe, that was the moment everything crystallized for me. I grew up being taught that family comes first, that you sacrifice for the people you love, that blood is thicker than water. And I still believe in those things to a degree. But I've also learned that those principles can be weaponized. They can be used to guilt you into accepting treatment you would never tolerate from a stranger. They can be used to make you feel selfish for wanting basic respect. Derek and my dad and stepmother all tried to use the concept of family as a trump card. Like the word itself should override my comfort, my safety, my boundaries. Like being related to me gave Derek automatic access to my home, my address, my life. It doesn't work that way. It shouldn't work that way. To anyone else dealing with a family member who refuses to respect boundaries, document everything. Tell people you trust. Don't let anyone make you feel crazy for wanting to be treated with basic decency. And remember that setting boundaries isn't an act of aggression, it's an act of self-preservation. You are allowed to protect your peace. Full stop. Thanks for reading, everyone.